You've been trying to shake your old habits, stand boldly in your presence, speak your truth, and transform yourself from the inside out. You've done the positive affirmations, you've read the self-help books, you've made the vision board, and you've set the long-term goals. But even after all that, deep down within, you're noticing that no change is taking place. Not only that, you keep falling back into the patterns that have kept you stuck time and time again. But why? Well, it's because positive thinking, affirmations, and reading all the self-help books alone is no match for the part of you that still doesn't believe it. And this psychological behemoth is what's running the show behind the scenes, keeping you feeling stuck and like an imposter when truly deep down you just don't know how to integrate it, heal it, and transmute it properly. Today in this video, we are going to go over what is the subconscious shadow and how healing this psychological phenomena at the root can be the magic bullet you've been waiting to uncover. Let's dive right on in. Part 1, the conscious versus the subconscious and unconscious mind. The iceberg analogy and the mind of the ship analogy. So, of our iceberg, the entire iceberg being the totality of the mind. The conscious mind, which is the surface level awareness, it's the part of me and you that are consciously aware watching this video right now. It's the part of your mind that's involved with decision making, critical thinking, willpower, and surface level awareness. It sets the goals and says, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm aware that I want to do this. It's the conscious part of the mind. But below the 10% conscious mind exists the 90% subconscious and unconscious mind. This is the body of the iceberg. This is where your core beliefs, your habits, your emotional memories, your inner traumas all exist. Breaking this iceberg analogy down even further, you want to think of this similar to like a big pirate ship, with the pirate ship sailing the ocean sea being your life. The captain of the pirate ship is your conscious mind. It is the 10% and it is the visionary or the captain that is at the surface level at the top of the ship and is able to see the opportunities. The conscious mind or the captain or the visionary, they hold the map. They know where they want to go. But here's the thing. Only the captain has the map and only 10% of the mind has the map. If we go below the surface into the subconscious and unconscious mind, that's where you find the crew members. And they're the ones who are powering the ship. They are propelling the ship against the waves, sailing with the ocean, and they are actually the ones who are making the movements to bring the ship where it needs to go. Here's the kicker. The crew members below, they don't have the map. Only the captain in the conscious mind has the map. And the crew members, the 90% below the surface who are propelling the boat, they are completely trained off of their prior experiences and past experiences working with the captain. Again, the subconscious or the crewmates below the surface, they're the ones steering the ship. So if they don't believe what the captain says up top, no change is going to happen. And when we're trying to change consciously, what we're doing is we're saying, I want to be more confident. I want to transform. I want to live with less shame. That's the captain, the visionary, on the surface level visionary who's saying, yes, I want to do all of these things. But the thing is if the 90% subconscious, unconscious mind, the shipmates, if they don't believe what the captain is saying from up above, they're not going to listen to the captain. Thus, the crew can actually override the captain. If you put these two psychological phenomenons against each other in a boxing match where you are matching 10% versus 90%, the conscious mind is going to lose just about every single time. If the crew has been trained to believe that stepping outside of the comfort zone is dangerous because it may have resulted in trauma, anxiety, failure, shame, no change is actually going to happen until the crew below the surface believes these things are safe or believes these things are worth taking the risk for. It is the belief system, it is the core beliefs below the surface where the real change happens. The root. It's the root matter how many affirmations you do, no matter how many books you read, no matter how many vision boards you make, if the subconscious, unconscious crewmates within the ship don't believe what the captain is saying, they will always override the captain. All right, section number 2, and this is all with love, but toxic positivity doesn't work. It's not going to change you. So toxic positivity, it's the overemphasis on always maintaining, a positive attitude and dismissing real negative emotions that are valid and exist and are important in the transformational process. Kind of like, there's no negative thoughts here. Negative thoughts don't exist here. And if they do, no, go over there. No bad vibes here. I don't want that negative energy. It's essentially suppressing and denying shame, anger, anxiety, fear that do surface up, that are coming up and ready to be healed, but instead we stuff it back down. I've been taught that these are bad vibes. These are bad vibes, and I don't want the bad vibes. I'm going to press them down and repress them. And what it does is it keeps it locked away in your subconscious shadow, which are absolutely essential for real healing and transformation. The other thing with toxic positivity is it kind of like puts on like this mask or this front that hides the damage that's under the hood, that's under the surface. It hides it all. Yeah, I'm positive all the time. But if you can see through that, which people can, people are becoming way more aware now. And if you can see through the surface level mask, you can actually see all the inner wounding that's on the inside. And not only this, and this is just with my own personal experience too, because I've tried doing all the affirmations and stuff, but it creates emotional dissonance to where your conscious and your subconscious and unconscious mind are at almost war with each other, because you're consciously saying, I'm super positive, I'm outgoing, I can tackle any challenge, I have no fear, fear doesn't exist. And below the surface, it's saying, it's almost like denying every single time it's hitting the deny button. Nope, 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 nope. We still have all of this wounding and programming that exists below the surface, and until that's dealt with first, what you're consciously saying to the subconscious, unconscious mind will not manifest. It's good to be positive. You want to live in positive, but for the purpose of this video, it's to be real and to get under the surface and heal the stuff that no one wants to talk about under the surface, so you can be positive and you can just naturally be the full, vibrant expression of yourself. All right, next part to this video is, what is the shadow? More importantly, what is the subconscious shadow? And how does it come up in everyday life? So in Carl Jung psychology, the shadow is the parts of ourself that we've repressed or rejected and denied to keep us safe. So your shadow lives in the subconscious, unconscious mind under the surface. And here's the kicker. It doesn't stay quiet. In fact, it actually often reveals itself in your day-to-day life, but you have to be aware of its signs when it's surfacing and be able to recognize it and catch it and identify it. That's the first step. So with this, let's go into some signs that the shadow is coming up. First signs that come up: triggers, mood swings, impulsiveness, emotional reactions. The shadow often comes up when in the external world it gets activated or triggered when someone will say something or do something that strikes a nerve. It activates the old programming that still exists, that's ready to come up and be healed, comes into the conscious awareness, and it's usually an intense, over-exaggerated emotional reaction that's not in proportion to what's actually going on. The shadow can also show up as inner chaos, such as fear of being seen and self-sabotage for your own success. Self-sabotage can be described as when you consciously or even unconsciously hinder your own success for growing or expanding outside of your comfort zone. They're bad habits that don't actually serve you, but give you like a short-term pleasure to escape the discomfort that's coming up. I've been wanting to improve myself and start meditating once a day for 10 minutes, but instead of taking the time to go meditate, I'm going to binge watch Netflix for hours on end. I'm feeling discomfort in my body, so I'm going to binge eat food to deal with the discomfort. Self-sabotage is often rooted in like insecurity and deep fear and unworthiness, and these are all limiting beliefs, limiting programming that trick you into thinking you're not actually worthy of the success. Therefore, you're going to do these actions that hinder your success, that hinder you from being successful, that slow the process down. So other behavioral patterns that you can become aware of could be a repressed need for control may show up as passive aggressiveness, or a fear of failure might show up as perfectionism. And it's just to be aware of the behavioral patterns and tendencies. Next one, signs that the shadow is coming up to the surface level awareness, is projection. I think personally this is one of the biggest ones that can really help, is identifying your own projections onto others. Projection is when you psychologically project a part of yourself that's wounded, that's been repressed, rejected, or you're ashamed of, and you are projecting it onto another person. But what it really is, it's a reflection of you being projected onto them, and that projection of you onto them is being reflected back to yourself. So when you judge others really harshly, you're not necessarily mad at the other person, but they are reflecting a part of you back to you that you've disowned, repressed, or don't approve of, or are ashamed of. The shadow's not a bad thing. It helps you level up, it helps you grow, but it's uncomfortable, and you are getting that reflection of yourself back to you, and you don't like it because it's unhealed. All right, last one on how the shadow will surface in your day-to-day life. And it's actually not during the day, it's at night. It's when you're dreaming. When we're going to sleep, our unconscious mind begins to wander. And in our sleep, the veil between the subconscious and the unconscious mind is a lot thinner, and it can show up in your dreams. Here's the kicker. It doesn't actually show up in your dreams as you dream it. It shows up symbolically as a symbol. These symbols can be like a scary figure, or an emotionally repressed fantasy, and it shows up as a symbol, not literal as it is, but an unconscious symbol that represents something that needs to be healed inside. The shadow wants to come up to help us heal. The totality of the mind wants you to grow in consciousness. When you wake up, if you can jot down your dreams and recognize, okay, I dreamed about this, this, and that, what does it symbolize? What is it reflecting back to me that I have within my unconscious, subconscious shadow that is coming up to my conscious mind? So these are all signs that the shadow is coming up from the subconscious, unconscious, under the surface level awareness into the conscious awareness. The shadow is not anything evil. It's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to help you heal. In one of my other videos, I talked about like fear, and if you're trying to transform into the 2.0 you have to break through the fear. And I talk about how like fear is in a bank vault, and if you're going to get to the money in the bank vault, you need to go through the fear that is guarding the bank vault. Similar to the shadow. All right, time for the most important part of the video. Now that we know what the conscious mind is, the subconscious and the unconscious mind is, and what the shadow is, it's time to go into what's known as shadow work. All right, part of shadow work is integrating the shadow self. Letting the unconscious become conscious. Letting all of the inner programming that's outdated, all the limiting beliefs, all of the unconscious stuff behind the scenes, coming into the conscious awareness. So the first one that I like is exploring the trail of whys. It's pretty much asking why on repeat to the infinite level. Why do I self-sabotage? Why do I feel ashamed? Why am I fearful of this? Why do I get anxious in this situation? And through basically asking yourself why on repeat, it allows you to get deeper and deeper and deeper to the core. Following the trail of whys, they're not unconscious flaws, they just help you get to where you need to go. Just like I said with the bank vault. This healed, fully exalted form of the shadow, it's going to be guarded by a lot of fear and discomfort. But if you can go through the fear and discomfort, integrate it, and then transmute it and exalt it to the positive expression of the fear, that's where a lot of the strength and the gold and the inner power exists. Just like on a wavelength scale. you've got from 0 to -10 to +10. We'll just pretend that the shadow is at a -10, and then its positively integrated, transmuted, and exalted form is the +10. And you must become aware of it, integrate it, and then through transmuting it and exalting it into its positive expression, that's where you're getting the gold inside of the shadow. Even the darkness is sacred. I know how it sounds, but it's all part of God. You have the dark and the light. I know how it sounds, but the truth is, it's in the darkest times where we get the most strength. But if we don't look at the darkness and we pretend it doesn't exist, it's going to continue to show up and manifest into our life until we do recognize it, integrate it, transmute it, and exalt it into its positive, highest expression, healed, strengthened form of power. So things that do help with shadow work is just meditation. Meditation is very good. If you start a daily meditation habit that you just do every day, what I do is I just meditate in the morning right when I wake up, and it's just like going to the gym. You just get it done right away. And if you turn that into a habit, you become way more conscious. And like when you're meditating, it's essentially you get into a calm, relaxed state to where there is enough time between your thoughts and your feelings to where your awareness can pick up on it. So shadow meditations are really good because you can go in with the intention of, all right, I'm going to allow my shadow to come up, or I have in my awareness, I'm aware of the inner programming or the crew members that are wounded, and I'm going to go down under the surface and understand why. And they might not want to tell you right away, and that's why it takes practice. You're not going to be able to just meditate once and then just fix everything. Speaking of which, all right, let's get into some journals. So, shadow work journal. Just a basic shadow work journal. This has got a lot of good prompts in there that kind of really help uncover your triggers, what makes you squirmy, your unconscious tendencies, your patterns, and through jotting your thoughts and putting them on paper and putting the intention with the action helps you increase your awareness, helps you bring out what's hiding beneath the surface. Other one, like I said, dreams are important too because there's a lot of unconscious symbolism in dreams. But if you don't know how to uncover the symbolism behind the dream, you can't get to the unconscious shadow. So, dream journal is really good too. I know it's pink. It doesn't make you unmasculine. If you're a guy watching this and saying, I will never do a dream journal, especially that one because it's pink. Newsflash, gender is gender. Masculine and feminine is energy, and it's not gender. You need to understand that masculine and feminine energy has nothing to do with gender. It's just part of the human experience. With masculine energy, it's the action. It is the go out and achieve and take the action to achieve these goals. It is to draw the boundary with people that are overstepping the boundary with you. The feminine side is being in touch with your emotions, being in touch with your intuition, your feelings. And if they're not balanced too, such as if you have too much feminine energy, it has nothing to do with gender, but you have too much feminine energy, you're not going to be able to draw the boundaries with people. You're not going to be able to take the action to go get the goals that you want. And then again, if you have too much masculine energy and not enough feminine energy, you're not going to be in touch with your emotions and how you feel. You're not going to be in touch with your intuition, and you're going to get driven off course. And the trick is you want to balance both of them. That is my side note on masculine and feminine energy. It has nothing to do with gender, but that's an important part of even just the shadow, especially in Carl Jung's psychology, balancing the animus and the anima. If you're a guy watching this, none of that stuff makes you weak. It actually makes you really intuitively strong and in tune with like your inner feelings, so you can have direction on where you're going. All right, y'all, this was a jam-packed video with tons of content in there. If there's one thing that spoke to you, leave me a comment and let me know what that was. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next episode.